This is the Dope Farm Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Dope Farm Podcast. This is Win, and I'm your host. I want to start out again by saying thank you to John Jeffers of the Contra Radio Network for allowing me to upload and be a part of their network. He gave me a shout out on his show, The Jeffers Brief, and I just wanted to thank you again and really appreciate the opportunity that you're providing for me. So having said that, let's jump into George Washington's rules of civility and decent behavior. Okay, so we're on number 2. And number 2 reads, when in company, put not your hands to any part of the body, not usually discovered. So, listening to that, it's pretty straightforward. Don't, when you're in public or when you're around people, don't be adjusting your manhood or picking your nose or picking your butt, whatever. Just don't do it. If you want to be in polite company, if you want to be around people, you need to act civilized, act like you have a little bit of common sense. I know that's not a very common thing these days, but use your brain. Think about where you're at. It's called situational awareness. Be aware of your surroundings, who you're around, who you're talking to, and just be respectful of them. So what I want to talk about this week is we're coming up on Memorial Day Monday, and I just wanted to give a brief discussion on what Memorial Day is. And so I did a little searching around, and the best one I could find was on the History Channel. What I found here was published. Okay, so this comes from thehistorychannel.com, updated on May 20th, 2019. Memorial Day. Memorial Day is an American holiday observed on the last Monday of May, honoring the men and women who died while serving in the U.S. military. Memorial Day 2019 occurs on Monday, May 27th. Originally known as Decoration Day, it originated in the years following the Civil War, and it became official following the Civil War and became an official holiday in 1971. Many Americans observe Memorial Day by visiting cemeteries or memorials, holding family gatherings, and participating in parades. Unofficially, it marks the beginning of the summer season. Early observances of Memorial Day. The Civil War, which ended in the spring of 1865, claimed more lives than any conflict in the U.S. history and required the establishment of the country's first national cemetery. By the late 1860s, Americans in various towns and cities had begun holding springtime tributes to these countless fallen soldiers, decorating their graves with flowers and reciting prayers. It is unclear where exactly this tradition originated. Numerous different communities have independently initiated memorial gatherings. Nevertheless, in 1966, the federal government declared Waterloo, New York, the official birthplace of Memorial Day. Waterloo, which first celebrated the day on May 5th, 1866, was chosen because it hosted an annual community-wide event during which businesses closed and residents decorated the graves of soldiers with flowers and flags. Decoration Day. On May 5th, 1868, John A. Logan leader of the Organization of Northern Civil War Veterans, called for a nationwide day of remembrance later that month. The 30th of May, 1868, was designated for the purposes of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, whose bodies now lie almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land, he proclaimed. The date of Decoration Day, as he called it, was chosen because it wasn't the anniversary of any particular battle. On the first Decoration Day, General James Garfield made a speech at Arlington National Cemetery, and 5,000 participants decorated the graves of the 20,000 Union and Confederate soldiers buried there. Many northern states held similar commemorative events and reprised the tradition in subsequent years. By 1890, each one had made Decoration Day an official state holiday. Southern states, on the other hand, continued to honor their dead on separate days until after World War I. The history of Memorial Day. Memorial Day, as Decoration Day gradually came to be known, originally honored only those lost fighting the Civil War. But during World War I, the United States found itself embroiled in another major conflict, and the holidays evolved to commemorate American military personnel who died in all wars. For decades, Memorial Day continued to be observed on May 30th, the date Logan had selected for Decoration Day. But in 1968, Congress passed a Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which established Memorial Day as the last Monday in May in order to create a 3-day weekend for federal employees. The change went into effect in 1971. The same law also declared Memorial Day a federal holiday. Memorial Day traditions. Cities and towns across the United States host Memorial Day parades each year, often incorporating military personnel and members of veterans organizations. Some of the largest parades take place in Chicago, New York, and Washington, D.C. Americans also observe Memorial Day by visiting cemeteries and memorials. Some people wear red poppy in remembrance of those fallen in war, a tradition that began with a World War I poem. On a less somber note, many people take weekend trips and throw parties and barbecues on the holiday, perhaps because it unofficially marks the beginning of summer. Okay, so that's the end of the article. There's a nice photo gallery there, and if you'll go to my website, thedopefarmpodcast.com, I have an article there, The Dope Farm, number 4, Rule 2, and Memorial Day. So I want to kind of talk about real quick how the holiday, people really forget about what this holiday is about. They just look at it as, like this article here says at the end, it says, it's the unofficial start of summer. A lot of people are getting out of school and whatnot, but it's unfortunate that that we don't recognize it as much as we should. These soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, they've all sacrificed. The ones that have died in the line of duty, died in combat on some godforsaken piece of dirt somewhere. And, we really need to pay attention to that and really remember those. So I want to, on this Memorial Day holiday, I want to remember a young soldier of just 23 years old who lost his life in Afghanistan on 10/4 of 2018. Sergeant James A. Slape, an explosive ordnance disposal technician who has been posthumously promoted from specialist to sergeant, was fatally wounded Thursday as he worked to clear an area of explosives in the southern Helmand province of Afghanistan after a blast damaged a vehicle. He left his vehicle and was working to clear the area when another IED detonated, said Sergeant First Class Deborah Richardson, a spokeswoman for the NATO Resolute Support Mission Kabul, via email. Slape was medically evacuated to the medical care facility, but despite vigilant efforts to save him, his wounds were fatal. Slape was assigned to the 430th Explosives Ordnance Disposal Company, 60th Troop Command, North Carolina Army National Guard, based in Washington, North Carolina. The 23-year-old from Morehead City, North Carolina, had joined the National Guard in 2013 and graduated from the Army's Explosives Ordnance Disposal School in 2015. He deployed with his unit in April and was scheduled to return home in the spring of 2019, said Lieutenant Colonel Matthew DeVovo, a North Carolina Guard spokesman. Slape was based at Camp Dwyer in Helmand's Garmshire district in the heart of the region largely controlled by the Taliban. Helmand has been the bloodiest of the country's 34 provinces for the coalition troops since 2001. Using an abbreviation for Armored Personnel Carrier, a Taliban spokesperson claimed on social media Thursday an IED shred, quote, a U.S. APC to pieces near Camp Dwyer in Helmand's Garmshire district. Richardson did not say what type of vehicle had been damaged in the blast or how badly it was damaged, other than describing it as non-mission capable. On Facebook Friday, several of Slape's friends changed their profile photos to images of the Army's Explosives Ordnance Disposal badge covered by a black band symbolizing mourning. We are deeply saddened by the news of James Slape's losing his life while serving our country, Major General Greg Lusk, North Carolina National Guard's adjutant, said in a statement. We honor his courage, his selfless service, and we extend our deepest sympathies to his family, friends, and fellow soldiers as we hold them firmly in our hearts and prayers during this difficult time. The death marks the 7th combat fatality and 8th overall fatality in Afghanistan this year for U.S. forces, a tiny fraction of the number of deaths at the height of the war in 2010 was about 500 Americans were killed in the country. Slape, who was supporting the Resolute Support mission to train, advise, and assist Afghan forces battling Taliban insurgency, is the 26th North Carolina National Guard soldier to be killed in action since the attacks of September 11, 2001, the military said in a statement. National Guard members step up and answer the call to service whenever they are needed, whether at home during a natural disaster or overseas to protect our national security, said North Carolina's Governor Roy Cooper in a statement. They leave their homes, their families, and their jobs and put their lives on the line for us. On behalf of the people of North Carolina, I honor the service and sacrifice of Sergeant James Slape and offer our deepest sympathies to his loved ones and his fellow soldiers. Sunday marked 17 years since the U.S.-led coalition launched the invasion that would topple the Taliban regime, which had been harboring the al-Qaeda terrorist group that had plotted and carried out the attacks on the World Trade Center in the Pentagon. In all, more than 2,250 Americans have been killed in Afghanistan since then, and another 130 have died elsewhere while supporting the war. Nearly 21,000 have been wounded. Thursday's incident is under investigation, officials said. And this was from Stars and Stripes, and it was originally published on October 6th of 2018. So why did I choose Sergeant Slape? Well, I have some very close friends that are members of the 430th EOD company in Washington, North Carolina. And I wear Sergeant Slape's memorial band on my wrist every day, and he will not be forgotten. So I'm going to add in a segment called the Gear Whore's Gear Closet. And I earned the nickname Gear Whore from a good friend of mine, coined the phrase some time ago when I was riding dual sport motorcycles quite a bit. And whenever he had a question about a certain type of gear, he would call me because I had a knack for knowing this obscure stuff. For my initial gear review, I'm going to